segment in this video interview with Mr. Harvey Smith, and I am Ariel.
I'm Tanya.
And I'm Harvey.
We all know each other.
Yes.
Okay. What was your role, if any, in any sort of activism, from the war to civil rights to social justice?
Okay, let me start at the beginning. Just to give you an insight, when I was 10 years old, I remember going to the doctor. I had to get some type of shots. And that was in 1960. And I remember my mother and the doctor were talking about this place called Vietnam that we just sent in, quote, advisors to go to Vietnam, the United States government. And I remember my mother saying to the doctor, gee, I hope this is over by the time the boys are military age. And that always stuck with me. I don't know why that conversation always stuck with me. But fast forward to 1966, when the anti-war movement really started heating up, very started heating up. We were still living in the projects, and there was an announcement that the following year, 1967, there was going to be mobilization in New York City to end the war. And this would take place in New York, in California, all the major cities. I remember my mother and father seeing this and warning me, do not go down there, we don't know what's going to happen into the city.
So what did you
Well,
do?
as a 17-year-old kid, the first thing you know, I'm not supposed to, I'm going.
Typical 17-year-old.
17-year-old. So we got on the subway, because I was near the house, and went down to the city. What I saw there amazed me. There was, I believe, the number was 485,000 people coming from all walks of life, all colors, to protest the war in Vietnam. That was my first, I guess, baptism into a movement of that kind. At that rally, I heard Dr. King was there, and I heard him speak live. A lot of speakers, a lot of famous people. I started reading up more and more on this and why this war was immoral. Dr. King was, he was best known, or the media likes to put, just for civil rights. But Dr. King was for labor rights, he was anti-war, and I say this because a lot of the, quote, conservative media like to make him just as a civil rights person without looking at the whole global thing. He tied it all together, just like Dr. Barber is now in Moral Mondays. During that time, I became very active in a lot of protests in New York, a lot of activity going on, a lot of left political organizations. I got to meet a lot of great people. Got to meet Angela Davis, Charlene Mitchell, a lot of the pioneers and giants in the movement. That was a real wake-up call for me to see, started reading, and started seeing how everything ties together. Everything ties together. It's not just about race, it's about class. It's about how our whole economy works, how it keeps people down, not only black people, but white people, people of color, working class people. And that really solidified in my mind what is going on.
But our protests now are peaceful protests.
I remember, yeah, peaceful protests, and I remember that when there was, we were in where there was tear gas thrown, a lot of arrests. Thankfully, I was younger then, I weighed a lot less, and I was fast. So I was never arrested. And there was a real division in the country that time, a very big division in that country at that time. Compared to now, with the nonviolence of Dr. King talking, there was a real big difference. Back then, there was Dr. King and there was Malcolm X. Malcolm was not one to, he wasn't violent, but he didn't rule out defending himself. Also at that time, there's the Black Panthers and the Young Lords, the Puerto Ricans, who were self-defense. I call them the self-defense force for the people of color. Okay, we all mixed in, and that was part of the movement. Fast forward to now. Once I left there, I got an education, started to work. Things were kind of quiet. Things were moving along. It was never great, let me put it that way. But the country was in kind of quiet mood after that, after Vietnam and Cambodia. Since we moved down south, I've become more politically active and really went into high gear with Moral Mondays. I'm a cynic. I see movements come, see movements go. I saw Occupy come, and I saw some problems with it. I mean, people really wanted to make well on Occupy, but it was too diverse. There was no set of demands. As Dr. King said, you have to demand something to receive something. If you go to power and say, I want this, this, and this, 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 and throw it against the wall, what are you demanding? You have to have a focused demand. When I first saw Dr. Barber, and I surfed the internet, there's H King on J Street, which started in 2006 during a Democratic administration, because they saw systematically, no matter who's in power, there was problems. Okay, whether Democrats or Republicans. The Republicans are really almost like the fascist party now. Democrats still have some good people in there. But when I saw that, and I attended the first rally, you could see people were real. This wasn't some made up.
It wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It was there to stay.
It was there to stay. It's not a moment, but a movement. Since then, I've contacted and been in contact with a lot of people. I really put my heart and soul into this because it's something I believe in, really believe in. It goes beyond, again, race, although that's a real big part of it, because the reactionary forces in the state, the white reactionary forces, are going back to the old Jim Crow, the old neo-Confederate.
James Crow?
James, yeah, Esquire.
Okay, yeah, that's what Dr. Barber's calling it.
Also, people don't realize the John Birch Society, which is racist and anti-Semitic, has a big influence in this country with Art Pope. Art Pope belongs to the Koch brothers organization, whose father started the John Birch Society. So, where we, this thing goes deeper than just 10 years ago. It's only through the movement that we're able to bring this up and let people know what's happening. I've had conversations with people who were, I don't know if they're racist, but they will defend what happened in the Civil War as slavery. It wasn't about slavery. And I kind of gave that some credence until a few years ago when I was really starting to think about this. If that's the case, when the Civil War ended and the slaves were emancipated and they got power, what happened after that in the South? The powers that be had race rights, broke down the walls again. In North Carolina, in Wilmington, there was a first black newspaper called the Daily Record. And it's no more, of course.
You know the Daily Record.
And now the Daily Record. And it was burnt out. And the white supremacists, again, took it over. So getting to the point and putting Jim Crow laws in the South. So the point is, if it wasn't about slavery, why, when the people of color were emancipated, on paper at least, why did the South go back and then put in Jim Crow laws if it wasn't about that?
And if you don't mind me adding, I tell you, like, studying about the Civil War in school, the way that they teach it's like, they actually try to use that argument. No, it wasn't about slavery.
Right.
They try to say, oh, it was the North coming in, the Southern people were fighting to defend their homes.
They wanted
Right.
states' rights.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, if you're thinking about their homes and what they're defending, the South made all of their profits and all of their money from slavery.
Yes.
And I mean, when it comes down to it, let's talk about like the plantations. If you didn't own a plantation, you didn't get any work because slaves pretty much did all the work.
Exactly. And it was it's an economic thing too, and it goes back to the whole system. The whole system that we have, or capitalism, defends that and fosters that, So when we got to the end and we had, quote, free people, why was it necessary, United States right, to then subjugate them again under Jim Crow laws?
Very true.
Jim Crows, and keep people out of industries so they couldn't make a living. And we're seeing this today, the outcome of this today, the poverty. And we're talking about whites being impoverished too. Because not every white was a slave owner or landowner. But the slave masters of the ruling class at that time could use the whites to pull whites against the blacks,
Oh yeah.
hoping that, keep everyone divided.
And now, with Moral Monday, Reverend Barber has managed to bring all of us together again.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen amazing things, people in this crowd who everyone's prejudiced, everyone has it. I've seen people, white people who look like they come out of, I don't know, really scary. I would think there would be right-wingers that are really being turned around now and really joining the
Very much
movement.
so.
And seeing that our interests are the human interest. It's not a black interest, not a white interest. But we're all going to do better when everybody does better. And it's really, really, at 63 years old, I hope I'm around to see some of the results of what's going on. It's going to be a hard battle. It's going to be a hard battle. But I'm hopeful for the future, for my kids, your kids, the grandkids. It's, hopefully we'll see the day
We will.
when this is turned around
Oh yeah.
again.
Well, thank you very much for taking time to be with us today.
I enjoyed it, and I really
Thank you.
did. And thank you for interviewing me. It was really great. Brought back some great memories for me, too.
And we enjoyed having you.
Thank you much. Thank you.
And we will be back again next week. Not sure with who yet, but it will be good because we have it like that. Thanks for watching. Good day.